Welcome to the Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast once again. I usually don't do this, but I usually don't do an episode on the same day and upload on the same day, but I'm going to try to do that today. It's like 11:47, so I've got several minutes before it hits midnight. I'm going to try to get this up before it hits midnight, but I just wanted to give a quick word about Juneteenth. If you don't know, Juneteenth is a federal holiday. Yes, it has become a federal holiday in the last few days. Juneteenth is a federal holiday in the United States commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. And let me talk a little bit about enslaved. The reason why the conversation is switching to the word enslaved is because when you say the slaves, you're saying it as if that this is who these people are. And that is not who they were at all. They were everyday people living and working, in their own communities, in their own country, and they were stolen and taken and sold into slavery. So we really need to kind of switch the way that we talk about it. I know we've been saying it for years, but over the past several years, I've adapted to saying enslaved as an enslaved, enslaved. That way we are not labeling these people who went through this, our ancestors who went through this, as slaves. For me, yes, I am American born, but I am not from the lineage of African American slaves. So I would not, as they're known, I would not fall under the category of an ADOS, which is American descendants of slaves, just the term that's being used as far as reparations is concerned. So I wouldn't even qualify for reparations, but that does not mean that I don't think they should be available and voted on. So I really want to talk about, a little bit about Juneteenth and just do like a quick overview. Basically, Juneteenth, we observe it as Black people because it's a celebration of the African American culture. It originated in Galveston, Texas. It's been celebrated annually for many years. I believe Galveston, the state of Texas, was actually the first to commemorate and celebrate it. But this was a time where these enslaved folks, found out that they were free. You had some folks come through, some brothers come through and say, why are you still on these plantations? You do know that you are free, right? And it's sad because I think a lot of people, it is a day of, emancipation. It is a day of Black independence. This is our, essentially our 4th of July. I really have not celebrated 4th of July in some time. It's been several years where I made a decision for my personal self to no longer celebrate 4th of July and to acknowledge and celebrate Juneteenth. I've celebrated Juneteenth for years, but I also acknowledge 4th of July. But I no longer acknowledge 4th of July, just for my own thing. If you really read up on a lot of this, it's really sad how people, these folks were basically free and they didn't know. So this is why Juneteenth is so significant for us. But I don't want us to forget about reparations. I think it's so important for reparations to happen. We can't forget about all of the voting rights, all of the suppression of voting rights that's happening to Black and brown communities. We definitely need to pay attention to this. We need to be talking about race relations in schools. We need to put things like the Greenwood massacre. We need to have that in our history books. These are major pieces of history that are just being left out. And as I've said before on this podcast, Black history is American history. And it's a major piece of the fact that we have done so much to help build up this country, and we can't forget about our Native Americans, our Native American brothers and sisters too. It's just a whole lot to go into, and I'm not going to walk down all those paths today. You can listen to my podcast and past episodes, and I do touch on these things every so often as it relates to everyday life, because it really is our everyday life. This is something that we deal with all the time. So while I am thrilled and I'm happy that it is now a federal holiday, Juneteenth has officially hit the books as a federal holiday, and that's amazing. But there is still a lot of work to do. Do not get distracted by this so-called gift that we've been given of this federal holiday. There are still reparations to deal with. We are still dealing with our Black and brown people being attacked and literally lynched in the streets, and our voting rights. And also, we need to advocate or to join the advocacy to getting our textbooks from young. If we start doing this from when these kids are young, then you can start a conversation early on and make and create change. But it has to start somewhere. It really does. If it's not going to start in the home, because we know a lot of people are not going to talk about these things in their home, black, white, green, or otherwise, then you have to find another way. And I feel like, kids spend more time in school than they do at home. So these are the sort of things we can't keep being reactive. People always want to put in sensitivity training after there's an incident. We can't keep being reactive. We have to be proactive. And being proactive means being pro reparations, pro voting rights, pro talking about race relations in school, and stop shying away from the subject, because it's going to keep coming up. So again, I am thrilled that Juneteenth is now a federal holiday. I thank our current administration for doing that. But now this needs to open the door to a lot of other things that, quite frankly, I think is even more important than making this a federal holiday. But I hope that you found some quiet time to acknowledge Juneteenth and all of our enslaved brothers and sisters who, man, they went through a time, and just torture and all sorts of things that we can't even fathom, of the type of freedoms that we have today. And even with the freedoms that we have today, there is still a level of even mental slavery. There's still a level, of dismissiveness that there is towards the Black community, Black and brown communities. So I hope that you can, do some research on Juneteenth and really read up on this story, because it's a major, major part of American history that needs to be, acknowledged on a national level and in the history books. I never read about Juneteenth in the history books either. So that's something that needs to be added as well. But I just wanted to come through and kind of give a good word. This year has been, we're halfway through the year, and it's been, not without its ups and downs, but we're moving on into the second half of the year. So let's make sure that we finish strong. And by next podcast, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge myself to do a podcast every day. You think I could do that? Starting with today, I think I'm going to try to upload every day. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm committing to, but okay. I'm going to get out of here because I really want to upload this before midnight. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. I so appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to continue the conversation, find me online at Onyx Queen Media. I'll talk to you soon, you guys. Bye.